The digital landlord, 10 assets that pay rent without property. There's a man who's never owned a single building in his life. No apartments, no rental units, not even a garage he leases out to a neighbor. And yet, every single month, rent money lands in his account from people he's never met, in cities he's never visited, for things he built once and never had to touch again. By the time this video ends, you'll know exactly how he does it. And more importantly, you'll know which one of these 10 invisible properties you could start owning this week. Number 7 is the one most people your age are already sitting on without realizing it's paying them anything at all. So stay until the end. For 100 years, the rule of getting rich was simple. Buy a building, rent it out, collect checks forever. Your grandfather understood this. Your parents probably still believe it's the only real path to wealth. But that rule is quietly dying, and almost nobody is talking about what's replacing it. The biggest landlords of the next decade won't own a square foot of physical space. They'll be collecting rent on things you can't even touch: code, contracts, catalogs, and clicks. We call them digital landlords. And what's wild is that most of these 10 assets can be started with less money than a security deposit on a studio apartment. Let's start with something so small it sounds like a joke: a web address. Back in the 90s, someone bought voice.com for $2,000. Decades later, he sold it for $30 million. That's not a lucky flip. That's digital real estate behaving exactly like physical real estate, except the location moved from a street corner to a search bar. Domain investors buy up short, brandable names, the kind a startup would kill for, and either flip them for a profit or lease them out for annual fees. No tenants, no property tax, no inspection. Just an expiring lease that someone else desperately wants to renew. This one looks the most boring on paper, and it might be the most reliable of all 10. When you own a slice of a company that pays dividends, you're collecting rent on ownership itself, every single quarter, like clockwork, whether you check your portfolio or not. Coca-Cola has paid out for over 60 consecutive years through recessions, wars, and pandemics. You don't run the factory. You don't stock a single shelf. You don't answer a single customer complaint. The machine simply pays you to keep owning a piece of it, quarter after quarter, for as long as you hold on. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this is how musicians and authors quietly become millionaires without releasing anything new. Royalties. Every time a song plays on the radio, a book gets checked out of a library, or a patented mechanism shows up inside someone else's product, a small check gets cut, automatically, forever, with no additional effort from the creator. This is exactly why Bob Dylan sold his entire song catalog for hundreds of millions of dollars. He wasn't selling songs. He was selling a rent check that never stops arriving, to a buyer who understood that a catalog behaves less like art and more like an apartment complex that fills itself. If you actually want the traditional landlord feeling without the traditional landlord headaches, this is the one most people scroll straight past. Real estate investment trusts pool investor money to buy shopping malls, apartment complexes, warehouses, even data centers and cell phone towers. By law, they're required to pay out the vast majority of their profits directly to shareholders as dividends. You get the rent check every quarter. Someone else fields the 2 a.m. call about the broken water heater. Here's where you stop being a tenant of the financial system and start playing the role of the bank. Peer-to-peer lending platforms let you lend money directly to individuals or small businesses who need capital, and you collect the interest, the exact same interest a bank would normally charge, except now it's your account that grows instead of theirs. It's riskier than a savings account, sure, but it's rent, paid in interest, on money that would otherwise be sitting still. This is the one almost anyone watching this video could realistically build by next weekend. Templates, courses, presets, spreadsheets, stock photos, anything built once and sold an infinite number of times with zero cost to restock. A single Notion template or Lightroom preset pack can quietly keep generating income years after the creator has stopped actively touching it. The economics are almost unfair in the buyer's favor. No inventory, no shipping, no manufacturing, just a file that gets purchased over and over while its creator is asleep, on vacation, or doing something else entirely. And this is the one hiding in plain sight, the one that's a little ironic, given what you're watching right now. A library of videos is an asset. Ad revenue keeps quietly trickling in on videos uploaded years ago, long after the creator has moved on to newer projects. Some creators genuinely earn more from their back catalog than from anything they publish this month. Every old video becomes a tiny apartment unit. Every single view is a tenant, paying a few cents in rent, whether the creator is actively working or not. This one is the least exciting name on the list, and arguably the most powerful. When you own a broad market index fund, you're collecting a small slice of profits and dividends from hundreds of companies simultaneously. It's diversified rent collection. Instead of managing one landlord relationship, you own 1,000 tiny ones, spread across every sector of the economy, all quietly paying you at once, without you ever having to pick a single winner. This one's a hybrid, but it deserves a spot because of how differently it's run today compared to 20 years ago. Modern vending and ATM routes are managed almost entirely through apps, remote inventory tracking, cashless payment dashboards, automated restocking alerts sent straight to a phone. The owner rarely, if ever, has to physically visit the machine. It's a physical asset being operated exactly like a digital one, generating small, consistent payments with almost no hands-on time required. And finally, the quiet giant of the internet economy. A well-built website that ranks on Google for a specific niche can earn a commission every single time someone clicks through and makes a purchase. Some of these sites get built once, optimized carefully, and then sold years later for 6 or 7 figures because the buyer isn't actually purchasing a website. They're purchasing a rent check that's permanently tied to search traffic, arriving whether the original creator logs in or not. Now look at what all 10 of these actually have in common. None of them require you to swing a hammer, negotiate a lease, or evict a difficult tenant. What they all demand upfront is either capital or effort, building the product, buying the stake, creating the catalog, optimizing the site, and then, critically, time. Time is the ingredient that quietly turns a simple asset into a full-blown landlord. The check doesn't arrive because of what you did today. It arrives because of what you built yesterday, last year, or a decade ago, and it's still working long after you've stopped thinking about it. This is the actual definition of wealth that most people completely miss. It was never about the size of a single paycheck. It's about how many of these 10 things you personally own, quietly working in the background, collecting rent on your behalf while you sleep, while you work a completely unrelated job, while you live your actual life. So here's the real question, and it's the one this entire video was built around. How many digital landlords are currently on your payroll? If the honest answer is 0, that's not a failure. That's simply a starting point, and you're watching this at exactly the right moment to change it. Pick one asset from this list. Start small, start imperfectly, but start. Because the goal was never to own a physical building in the first place. The goal was always to own something that pays you rent forever, without needing you in the room to collect it.